today, or some of what we'll do. We'll go over the syllabus first. And so, oh, spoke too soon. Some people still to come in. There we go. Okay, there we go. Is that the last people, I think? Just about? Okay. So I've lost my buttons. That happens sometimes. Give me a few seconds while I panic all over the place.
Ollie, I'm on a phone call.
You can hit the mute button if you don't want people to hear. Okay, somewhere or other, I've lost my little screen thing and now I can't find it, but it's coming up and I found it. We are good. Then let's go and do the syllabus. And what's that doing over there? Oh, I can see what's going on. You're going to get dizzy because I am. Right, are you now looking at a WebDesign 146? Is that what you can see right now? Okay. Are you now looking at our Canvas page? Yay, okay. So what we're going to do, let's start with the syllabus, but before that, let's talk a little bit about Canvas. Our class is basically split into two major features. There's the stuff that we have in Canvas, which you're looking at right now. That's really just where we put all the information and the resources, you know, videos to watch, things like that. And then the other half we use is WebAssign. And WebAssign is where the nitty-gritty happens. That's where all the homework is. That's where most of your tests are going to live. That's where you do your day-to-day working. So Canvas is resources, WebAssign is, you know, homework and so on, tests. So we're looking at Canvas. Let's click on this one. And this is your welcome page. And it loads up in a moment, make it a little bit bigger. And it tells you things like the technology that you need. Since this class uses what's called WebAssign, you do not need a textbook because WebAssign has an electronic version, an ebook of the textbook, right? So you don't need to buy that, but you do need to join WebAssign. And the code for this class is that one there. And what we have here, and you get this in Canvas, so I'm not going to go through it in any detail, is a blow-by-blow instruction of how to join our WebAssign class. And that's not an option, you have to join it. I suggest that you get sometime before the end of today that you join WebAssign, right? So you go to Canvas and you follow the instructions. When you join Canvas, you get a 2 weeks grace period. So you don't need to actually fork out any money yet. That gives you a chance to get your financial aid sorted out, right? Because some of you might not have that in place yet. But at the end of that 2 weeks, it will kick you out, right? It'll warn you that you're going to be kicked out of the class because you haven't paid. And at that point, you do. I kind of like the grace period because if this class doesn't work for you, right, your schedule changes and you know you can't take it, you can just drop the class and you wouldn't have paid any money into WebAssign either, right? So it wouldn't have cost you too much. So it is good to have that little 2 week thing. But eventually you're going to have to pay. So sometime soon, you're going to do that. Now, what I have here is officers, which for our class is 9 o'clock. So if you want to talk to me in a one-on-one about homework or a puzzle or a problem you've got, there's the Zoom link that you will use. This here is the class link that you use to get to this class, right? And that's going to be the same link for the next 6 weeks, and then I have to change it. And these are some of the things that you will find on Canvas. So let me kick back out and show you the things that you can get And we have this module, which I'll be looking at in more detail. We have college resources, and basically these are things that the college provides, resources like tutoring and help and so on. If you click on this one, for instance, if you click on that one, you can watch videos, other people's videos about statistics. Now, there's one that's missing here, but I will make sure it's going to be on. And there's another one going to be called class resources, which will appear here. And that's where you'll be able to find these lessons, because they're all taped, right? This one that you're in right now is being recorded. And by the end of today, typically, definitely by early tomorrow, this video will be online. And so if you miss a day, you can watch the lesson that you weren't here for and catch up that way, right? So actually, I take it back. I've put it in here. So it's that link there. And if you click on week 1, in that space there, that's where it's going to be. So I put that one in a slightly different place, but that's fine. Link to the office hour. If you have a problem with Zoom, here's some videos you can watch that will help you set up Zoom. Here's some general WebAssign. And this is a cool little link because I have a bad sense of humor, and you can watch all sorts of videos. None to do with math, most of them, just fun. That's kind of cool. Now, some information about me. Maggie, since you're the only person I know that I've taught before, do I have an accent, Maggie?
No, most definitely not.
Did y'all catch that? I have no accent. Who has the accent in this class?
The rest of us.
The rest of you, right? And if you're not sure what accent you've got, at least from my perspective, you all talk American, or most of you talk American. So I can get my little fun thing. It's Z, not Z. It's J, not J. And it's theta, not theta. And there are a few others out there. And it was my alphabet before it was yours. So I am still right and you are still wrong. Right? So as long as we've sorted that out, I don't have the accent, you do. These are the correct pronunciations for certain letters of the alphabet. We're good, right? Not that I think there's going to be great demand for saying theta that often, not in this class. Maggie, I'm putting you in the spot. Would you agree with me that after 2 days, it's just the funny way I speak and you don't really pay much attention?
Yeah.
Right. Don't know if Maggie will agree to this one, but some of my students tell me that when they do their homework, they hear a little Scottish voice in their head. Are you one of those poor people, Maggie?
Yeah.
But it does go away, right? It's not like a permanent affliction and you can't do math without hearing a Scottish voice. But it will go away, so you'll be fine. All right, let's pause on that. Is there any questions so far? Right. Now I'm chucking tons of information at you, and I understand you're not going to be able to memorize everything. But isn't it all in Canvas or on this video so you can go and watch the first 10 minutes again if you miss something, right? So it's not too bad if you don't catch everything. So where are we? Officer. A little bit about me. I'm from Scotland, as you know. I come from a place called Belsall. It used to be a coal mining community, but all the coal mines have closed now. They're gone at least 30 years ago. My father was a coal miner all his working life. My older brother was a coal miner, and then he joined the Merchant Navy. All my uncles were coal miners in both my mum and my dad's side of the family. So it's really a coal mining community I came from. So quite different from what you would have expected me to become, which is a mathematician, but nonetheless, that's what I ended up being. And I enjoy it and it's fun. I went to Glasgow University, where I got both my degrees. Glasgow University is the 4th oldest university in Britain. Oxford, Cambridge, St Andrews, and then Glasgow University. And I can't remember exactly, I should, but I don't. My university was founded in 1581. Yes, 1581. And just to get this out my brain, I was really annoyed, if that's the right word, surprised, whatever. When I came to America, I had to get all my degrees certified as equivalent to Americans. And I found it a little bit surprising that they thought that a university that was founded before America was even there as a country that we know today, thought that somehow my university was one of those hokey punk little universities that you can get by just turning up. I mean, it's an international, well-known university. Just got that out of my system. Anyway, back to focusing. There's a little bit about myself. The last thing, I started teaching in 1980, August of 1980, which is probably older than some of your dads, right? And I still don't know what I'm doing, but I keep trying. Let's move over to the syllabus now. There are a lot of duplication of information. When you want to contact me, will you please use my OC email, drobertson@olympic.edu. And, or Canvas does the same job. Don't contact me through WebAssign. It's a pain in the butt for me to even find out what people have asked. I don't get it directly. Because in WebAssign, they have things like ask your professor and ask for an extension and so on. Don't use those buttons, right? Just email me, and that way I know. Yeah. I don't want you spending 2 weeks hitting buttons in WebAssign and getting really annoyed that I'm not answering. It's not that I'm not answering, is I don't even know that you've asked. That's what the problem is.
How many times?
Say
How many
again first.
times has that happened to you?
It normally happens, not 2 weeks, normally after a week, most students get frustrated and send me an email saying, why haven't you answered my questions, right? But it does happen. I get at least 1 or 2 students a quarter from my 5 classes. Now, it might be they missed that last 30 seconds that we talked about, or they just saw the button and thought, boom, because it's there and they needed it. But don't do it, because I won't hear it.
Instant
I won't see
gratification.
it. Yeah, I guess. Here's an officer. You cannot take this class unless you've got a prerequisite, which I hope you've all got. Typically, that would be you've taken something like Math 99 and you got a 2.0 or better. And that might have been a while back, but you did that or a class higher. Or you placed into it. This is the technology, right? I need video. I like to see people. It gives me a good way of figuring out what's going on. You don't need a textbook because it's WebAssign has its own electronic version of it, so you don't need to go and buy a textbook unless you like physical paper, and it's easier for you to do that. That's a repeat of the information that's already in Canvas. Basically, it takes you through, if you'll read the introduction. This is what we call our class key. It gets you into our class. Here's the calendar. I think the most important dates for you are holidays. Friday the 13th is a holiday, which is a really good day to have a holiday if you're superstitious as I am. It's not a good idea to do anything on Friday the 13th. It's important. And Memorial Day, Monday, is also a holiday. The 2 key exam dates for you are the big exams are your midterm is on Monday the 9th and your final is on Thursday, right? So they're the 2 big days. So let's take you through what a typical kind of week's going to look like. This week, our topics are these guys. That one there is just basically for those who've never done WebAssign. It takes you through some of the things that you can do, how you use WebAssign. And then your real homework, although that counts as homework, are these two sections. So we'll cover these two parts of chapter 2 this week. We'll then do an online test on this. And all homework, including the online test, is going to be due on Sunday the 10th.
Is
Yes.
that, I must say, at midnight?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, don't do it at 11 p.m., right? You can do it on Saturday at 2 p.m. if you want, right? That's the drop dead date, right? That's when it must be finished. But you can do anything up to and including that. In fact, I would very strongly suggest that, especially for homework, that you do homework, even if it's only, the first 5 questions, as soon as a lesson finishes. Because what that does is it makes it easier for you to tell if you really do understand the work. Because I'll be doing stuff and you'll nod your head and say, yeah, that makes sense. And then you look at the homework and you think, maybe I don't understand it as much as I thought I did. Plus, homework is practice. Isn't that how you get good at stuff? Right, practice. And week 1, week 2, 3, 4, 5. And then we do midterm. And the midterm will be on all 5 works. Now, these tests that we're talking about, they won't even appear on WebAssign until probably Friday, Saturday, because there's no point you doing a test if you haven't done the homework, right? You won't probably have covered the work until then anyway. And the online test is different in a little way from homework. In the homework, actually, let's show you what it looks like. If I click on here and we do 146, can I do Open Student View? There we go. So let's say you click on homework. There we go. It's due midnight Sunday, as you know. And I think I clicked up. There we go. And basically your homework asks you questions. And this section's got a lot of very easy questions. If you hit that button there, right, see that one there, you can read part of the textbook that deals with that topic. So if you didn't kind of catch it or you weren't sure what it was, you can hit the read button. Some questions, not this one, has something called, is it called like give me another example or a phrase, something like that. Right. You hit that button, you can see another version of the question just to try out. That's more likely to happen in questions where there's numbers involved, right? Calculations. And so you click on the guy and you submit the answer. And that was me not reading the question, by the way. I don't know if you saw it. There we are. Do you see it's green? Check mark. You did it right. Let's say I did that one and I submit answer. Yeah. Do you know I got that one wrong? Now, if you get it wrong, couldn't you hit that little button and it maybe take you somewhere and you can figure out why you got it wrong? But you still get another shot. Now, in these early questions, can you see that you could cheat and basically just hit the bottom, the top one if it's wrong, hit the bottom one, you're going to get it right? Don't do that, right? Really do answer the questions, because what's going to happen if you get a question like that and you're online, right? You don't know the answer, and online is different. It doesn't tell you you're wrong, right? So you won't know. And so do it properly. Now, in that one that I just did, there was another choice. So I'm going to have to pick something else. Let's pick that one and hope I'm wrong. There, right? Quick reference again. And then you pick that one, and then you pick that one, right? Read some of the questions carefully. Sometimes you can have 2 things that are correct. So you might hit the button and say, but that's right. And you're right. That was right. But the 3rd dot was also right, right? Because there might be 2 reasons for something happening, right? Not just one. There could be 2 equally good reasons. So basically, you go through your homework. If you see that this section here, this is not a typical Math 146. That gets a little bit more, right? Finally, numbers, right? You got a little different thing going on there. I'll worry about that later, how you would do it. But there's a thing called SALT. And what that is it's a piece of software that allows you to do calculations and graphing online. So you don't need to do it by paper. Can you imagine how hard it would be to draw something on paper and then try and make that answer appear online, right? There's no interface, right? So you would create it using SALT, right? You would actually make a histogram or a bar chart or a table, and it would do it for you, right? Are we good with the homework, how it works with WebAssign? You get 5 guesses, right? So you've got plenty of chances if you get it wrong to fix it. And I just closed the wrong window there. Let's put it back in.
If you get it wrong, it docks you a few points, right?
No,
Oh, not
no,
at
it's
all?
not at all. So it's very generous. Homework is your way of getting good at something. So I'm not going to penalize you because you make a few mistakes getting there. Because if you finish it right, then you've learned it, right? So homework doesn't do that. So you could do 4 wrong and 1 right, and you still get full points. So it's not you lose a point for every wrong answer. So I'm not encouraging you to be wrong, but I'm trying to take the stress of you can be wrong and it would be a problem as long as eventually you're right. Okay, and that's what you want to be. You want to do it correct. So far, so good. Right, now there is a difference with the online tests. They will look just like these questions. First, you won't be told if you're right or wrong, right? You will be given the opportunity to put more than one answer in, because you may make a mistake and want to change it, right? So you will be able to do that, but you won't know if you got it right or wrong. It won't tell you that. Right? The second major thing is that your online tests, you get 1 every week, is timed. Right? In normal homework, you could do this on Tuesday and not bother until Thursday and come back where you left off and do 4 more questions. But when you do an online test, the minute you click on, I'm going to do it, a clock starts ticking and you've got 2 hours to get it done. Right? If you ain't, right? So it's a timed test. The online tests are open book. You can use any notes that you have got. So if you've written down examples of that question or notes to do with that, use it, right? Nothing wrong with that, okay? So that's the difference. You get 2 hours when it kicks in, and let's move on. Here we go. Okay, where are we? Syllabus. Are you comfortable about that? How homework works, how online tests works? You got a week, everything's done in week chunks. Right, what's the difference? Well, when you come to do the midterms and the final, we do things differently here. Midterm and the final are Zoom. You come to class and I watch you. So I make sure Maggie's not got her sister behind her helping her, right? Or Jacob's wife or whatever it might be, right? I can see it's just you. And you do your test that way. The tests, the midterm and the final exam are also open book. And by that, I mean, you can use any written material that you've got to do those, but you're not allowed to use software or tutoring service or phone your friend or anything else, right? It must be your work. And that is it. Now we scroll down. These are the things that we're going to be learning in stats. You can look them up as we go through. Don't cheat is that one. While we're on the don't cheat academic honesty thing, WebAssign in a lot of questions randomizes the data. So if you see a red number somewhere, it means that that number changes from one person's to the other. So it's no good Forrest phoning up Alexis and saying, what's your answer to question 7? And she'll say it's 42 and I got it right. And you're going to type in 42 and yours is wrong. And you might say, well, how does that harm? Well, Alexis's numbers that gave 42, you'll get the same question, but with different numbers. You see, it's a different answer each time. So you can't really cheat that way. So I'm telling you that right now, so you don't even try, right? What you can do is email me or come to your office meeting and say, look, can we go over this? And great, I can do that. So that's what cheating. Any of you have any kind of accommodation, tell me about it, especially at the end if you wait. The typical, excuse me, should never have phones on, should you? Where was I? Yeah, let's talk about grading then. There are 50 days, not 40, I'll fix that later. There are 50 days, 10 weeks times 5. So you get 50 participation points for turning up. If you don't ask for extra time, right, an extension to the homework, you will then get another 1 participation point. So that's how I'm going to do to participation points. So theoretically, you could get 120% participation. That's by not asking for an extension. So what does that mean by that? Let's say you're doing homework 3 and it was a hectic week for you and you didn't have enough time to finish your homework. You just send me an email saying, can I get some extra time to finish homework 3? And I'll say, not a problem, but I won't give you that participation point, right? If you don't ask for one, you get it. If you ask for an extension, I won't give you it, right? That doesn't include tests. Tests have to be done by midnight Sunday. There's no exceptions. So you might end up with a bad one, right? One that you didn't even know the work because you didn't have enough time to do the homework. The good news is I dropped the 2 lowest online tests, so they won't count. So if you screw up a couple of times, it's not going to affect your grade, right? Extensions for homework, okay, but not for tests. I guess that's the bottom. And that adds up to 10% of your grade. Now, homework on its own, 20% of your grade, right? So there are a lot of points in there. And I've emphasized that, talk to me, not web assign. The tests themselves are 20%. So you know that they're just as important as the homework, right? You want to do well in those. The midterm exam is 20 and the finals were 30. So that's your 100% of all your points. That's where they're coming from. And here is percentage turned into a grade. And that's the letter equivalent. So what kind of help do we give you? There is tutoring. You can get online tutoring. Olympic College has signed up for it. I asked somebody in a previous class and they said to me that the online tutoring is basically like Zoom. In other words, there's a person, whoever that person is, and you do it. That might only be for some classes. Has anybody done online in another class, online tutoring? And was it a person and was it Zoom? What was it like, Maggie?
So basically it was just like office hours. We came into the Zoom meeting and then we waited for our turn.
Okay, so they give you a link and you click on it like officers and you come in and you ask a question. Okay.
Yeah, so when you go to the e-tutoring website, you just click on your subject and then it takes you to whichever tutor has an office open at the time. And
Perfect.
so it automatically logs you into the Zoom meeting.
Right, because I'm not always going to be available, right? Did they do it during weekends as well?
Yeah, they do it all week up until 1 in the morning, depending on the subject you have, I believe.
Okay, so if you get stuck in your homework, that's a resource, right? You could just do e-tutoring. They do on-ground tutoring as well, which is in the mesh building, which I don't know the number, but it's the one facing the library. And you can go in there and get help. You can turn up in my officer, which is 9 o'clock for help. You can phone a friend if you know anybody in this class. Sometimes they could help you as well. So there's quite a lot of different resources. I also have Canvas. And in Canvas, I do have videos of other people, not me, doing similar lessons. So you can actually watch another professor doing it. It's one of the professors at OC. He kindly allowed me to use his videos. You can use him. I've also picked some YouTube videos. So if it don't make sense the way I'd say it, there's another way to, another place to look. And WebAssign has quite a lot of resources as well, so you might want to look there. Lastly, keep to schedule. Try and do your homework as soon after we've started as you possibly can. It's a good way to understand, do I really get this concept? Do I know what I'm talking about, or do I just think I did? Right? Practice makes perfect. And if you do it as soon after a class is finished, it goes quicker and it helps to reinforce those ideas. And I think that's good. Seek help as soon as you can, right? The tutoring, me, any, whatever it is, get help, get it fixed. And don't wait until 10 p.m. on Sunday to start your homework and your stuff. That ain't going to end well for you. Trust me, it doesn't have a good finish. And there's some things you can read in your own time. That is a lot of stuff. And I was right, it is a lot of stuff. And someone can't hear me. I don't know why, but the rest of you can, so it must be at their end. Is there any questions before we actually start our lesson then? Cool. I've either done such a good job you didn't have one, or I've done such a bad job you don't know where to start. But let's go for the first one, right? So this is some of the things that we're going to do. There, tick. We went over the syllabus. So let's start with our chapter 2, our first chapter in Intro to Statistics. Well, someone asked you, what is statistics? What does the branch of mathematics called statistics do? Well, I would describe it as the study of information. And in statistics, we call information data. So it's a study of data. That's how do you collect good information? What does it mean that you've got good information? Because good, bad, how do you tell, right? So we talk about getting information. And we also talk about things like summarizing that information. Right? Imagine I worked in a company and the boss went and said to me, I'd like to know how the workforce feels about moving to a 6-day week. Right? Well, let's make it nicer. It's a 6-day week, but it's really made up of 2 3-day weeks, right? You work 14 hours, 3 days in a row, and you get the rest of the week off, right? Do you know there's a lot of places that do 4-day weeks? You do 4 10s, right? That's not maybe even some of you have had a job where you did that, right? And he's thinking, I'd like to see if we could do a 6-day week because I really want people, right? Maybe it's a shop, right? I want people to be there on Saturday, right? We always have Sunday off, right? And so I want them to be there a lot of the time. Well, you could go and you could ask all his employees, do you like it, right? And they say yes, no. And then you come back to him with 400 pieces of paper, one for each worker, and said, okay, I've collected the data, here it is. Would you agree he would look at that big pile of paper and say, what use is that? I can't tell whether they like it or not. Don't you want to summarize the data, right? So if you're looking at the way statistics works, is the first thing you do is you collect it and you hope that you've got good data, and we'll go into what that means in the future. And then you summarize it. And summarize it could mean some numbers like this. 82% of your workforce hate the idea. And 17% like that idea, and 1% couldn't make up their mind, right? Wouldn't that be a way to summarize all that information in one neat package? And wouldn't your boss be able to say, okay, maybe it's not such a good idea after all that, right? because if that many people hate it, it's probably not going to work, right? People are going to quit because they just don't want to do that kind of job, right? So you summarize it. Another thing that we do is we display the data, not necessarily in that story, but we could display it as pictures. You know that phrase, one picture is worth 1,000 words? You ever heard that saying, or at least a paraphrase of that? Can you imagine histograms and bar charts and dot products and stem and leaves and pie charts and all sorts of shapes? Isn't it very helpful sometimes that if you take a lot of data and you make a picture out of it, can't you see trends and patterns and things that would be helpful, right, to understand what the information is telling you? So we display it, and then sometimes we predict things using it. An example of data that I would do that. Imagine I was interested in the average age of every student at OC. For some reason, I just want to get a feel for how old we are, right? Well, I could ask everybody, right, what their age is, right? I could go around however I would do it, right? And ask Forrest, you're not telling me this, Forrest. Ask Forrest his age, and he says 22, right? And Maggie says she's 19 and whatever, right? We all say our age. And I collect all that data. But wouldn't that be very time consuming to ask every single person? In fact, I'm not even sure I know where every single person is to ask them in the first place. So what we would typically do is we would get a thing called a sample, which I'm pretty sure you've heard that term, right? Isn't a sample just a small representative group? So I might ask 100 students who are representative of what students are, right? And the average age of them was 23. Couldn't I use that to predict what the average age of everybody at OC is? Wouldn't it probably be 23-ish? I wouldn't exactly say it's definitely 23. Wouldn't there be a bit of wiggle room? It might be 24, it might be 22, but close to 23, right? And we would use it to predict. And not only would we do a prediction based on the sample, very often we would give a range of values. So we might say something like this, that we're 90% confident that the average age is, say, between, 24 and 22, right? So when you're finished, when you do a prediction, very often it looks like this. You give an interval of values. I'm pretty sure the average age is between 22 and 24. How pretty sure are you? I'm 90% sure, right? I could be wrong, but if I'm wrong, isn't it like 10% of the time, right? 90% of the time I'm going to be correct, right? And then the last thing that we're going to do is we're going to do, which is called a hypothesis test. And that's actually the last two chapters. Week 10, week 9 and 10 we'll be doing these guys. And a hypothesis test is basically proving something. Suppose I want to prove, whatever that means, but statistically we can do it. I want to prove that a new drug is better at doing its job than the old drug. Right? You agree that would be something you'd like to be able to prove, not just say, I think it's better or it might be better. But in a statistical sense, we have this thing called a hypothesis test. It's a bit like a trial, where on trial are the two drugs. And what you're trying to do is decide where the evidence is pointing. Is the evidence pointing that the new drug is better? Or is the evidence not there to prove that, right? And we call that process hypothesis test, right? Or hypothesis testing. It's a biggie. A lot of people want to know the data you've collected. What does it prove? What's it telling me for sure? Or 99% sure? Okay, so that's what statistics is going to be about, all these things. So let's look at number 2, types of variables. So we are starting right at the start, right at the beginning. See the data that we're collecting, right? The information. There are two main kinds of data. And they are called categorical and quantitative. In your homework, they tell you a story and they say, what kind of data is this story? What kind of data do you collect? Is the data you collect categorical or is it quantitative? I kind of like, because different textbooks use different names. I like the word numerical, which you'll see in textbooks. So categorical data and numerical data, right? But this textbook uses quantitative, and that's not a bad name. Would you agree quantity makes you think it's a number, right? Quantitative data, right? Categorical data is data like you ask people their favorite color and they say red and blue and green, right? Or you ask them, what was the name of the TV show that they watched last night? Or you ask them who they're going to vote for, right? They're going to vote for the Democrat or Republican or an independent, right? In these cases here, would you agree that the answers that you get are not numbers themselves, but you combine them to get numbers? So you ask people colors, and don't you get 14 people said red was their favorite color, 12 said blue, 43 said green, whatever it is. If you do the TV show, it might be, oh God, I don't know any TV shows that are going on right now, but Big Bang Theory, 14% of the people watched that, right? Yesterday, right? Or 20% of the people watched this, or 2% watched that, right? So wouldn't it just be the name of a TV program and what percentage of the people in your sample said that was the show that they watched? In this one, couldn't you get, 39% said they were voting this, 41% said they were voting that, 22% said they were voting independent, and you might have another group undecided, right? And that would make up the rest. In all of these categorical data, isn't the information, the data you're collecting, red, blue, green, Big Bang Theory, the news, Democrat, Republican, isn't the thing you're collecting words, right? Now, quantitative, well, that happens when you ask people things and the answer is a number. So I could ask you your age. Wouldn't that be quantitative? Right, I'm 22, I'm 44, whatever. I could ask you your height. I could ask you your weight. Couldn't I ask you, I don't know, the number of coins in your pocket? The answer might be 0, which it is in my case because I don't have any coins in my pocket, right? But it could be 20 or any other number. I could ask you how many children you've got. It might be none, might be 10, right? And we call this data quantitative. And we can do a lot more with numerical quantitative data than we ever could with this. It's not that we don't collect this data, but the things you can do statistically with them are quite limited. I'll give you an example. Suppose I collected data on colors, and to make my life simple, there was only 3 colors. That's all people answered, right? 34% said this one, 56% said that one, and 10% said that one. Right, that's what I got, right? That was the end of my data collection. And I've summarized it, right? I've put it in a nice, easy to read format. What I can do with this data is quite limited. I can tell you, for instance, isn't blue the most popular color? People like blue more than anything else. And would you agree that from the choice of 3, yellow is the least popular color? Here's something I can't do. I can't tell you the average color would you agree it doesn't make sense? What's the average color? Well, how do you add red, blue, and yellow together, right? It doesn't make sense. Now, if you did numerical data, right, and you had 0, 1, 2, and 3 children in the family, and this was 10%, and this was 30, and this was 40, and this was 20. Right, so this is number of children in your family, right? Couldn't I find the average? Couldn't I say that the average family size was 1.9? Basically, wouldn't I add up all these zeros, all these ones, all these 2, all these 3, and divide by how many people asked? You could find the average. You could find all sorts of other things called standard deviation. Numerical data is much more useful. I believe the average family size in America is 2. Oh, don't quote me on this. I think it's 2.3. Now, you might think that doesn't make sense, that the average family in America is 2.3 children. It doesn't mean that, that there's a family in America with 2 kids and a head, right? It doesn't mean that you've got 0.3 of a person, right? Isn't that a numerical number that says the average is somewhere between 2 and 3, but they're more likely to have 2 in the family than 3? Do you get a feeling for where the middle family size belongs, right? Around about 2 kids-ish.
I guess it could make sense if you're doing criminology.
Well, parts of body might be found, I guess. Right. So we are talking then about categorical and numerical. And to finish off with, sometimes, but not all questions, we split these two into 2 subgroups, and this is where we're going to be continuing tomorrow from, but I just want to get the start for it. In quantitative data, the data is continuous or not continuous. I don't like the word not continuous. I prefer to use the word discontinuous, but that's the math in me. Not continuous is what they use, and that's fine. So what does that mean? Right. Some numbers are continuous and other numbers are not continuous. Not continuous would be number of children in your family. 0, 1, 2, 3, right? Continuous would be something like your height. So how do we distinguish between them? Couldn't you weigh 140 pounds? Couldn't you weigh 141 pounds? Agreed? But couldn't you, if you used really good scales, couldn't you also weigh 140.12345 pounds? In other words, couldn't you have any number between these as well as your answer? That's what continuous would look like. You can only have 1 child or 2 children, right? Would you agree it doesn't make sense to have 1.1 or 1.9 children, right? In physical one family, that doesn't make sense. So height is continuous, number of children is not continuous. So far, so good? Okay. Is weight continuous or not continuous? Somebody's weight. Continuous or not continuous?
Continuous,
Agreed. Number of coins in your pocket.
not continuous.
How many grandparents are still alive?
I didn't hear you.
Not
How many
continuous.
grandparents are still alive?
Oh, not continuous.
Not continuous. Can't think of any continuous ones, but there's plenty out there, right? Are we comfortable with the difference between them? So you might get a question where they say, they collected the number of children in the family. What kind of data is it? And you would say, it's
shoe size.
So, say again?
Shoe size?
Shoe size, good example, right? You could be a 3 or a 4, but you can't be a 3.1 probably. Right, categorical then. How about in categorical? What are the two types here? They have a funny name. They're called ordinal. And I don't like this, but not ordinal. Ordinal categorical data is any data that has an order to it. And obviously not would be the ones that don't have an order. Right, give an example. Sophomore, God, I've forgotten the other one. Junior, senior. Freshman, sophomore, junior, senior. Would you agree those things have an order to them? Right? Happy, okay, sad. Would you agree there's an order? You could just decide which way around to put them, right? If there's an order to it, you call it ordinal. Colors, I wouldn't say that they could be put in any order. I guess you could talk about the colors of a spectrum, but I'm not sure that's a good analogy. Maybe pick a different one. TV shows. Would you agree that TV shows couldn't be put in any order, right? Does Big Brother come before? And everybody's going to say, but you can always do alphabetical. Well, we pretend that alphabetical is not allowed, right? So you ain't allowed to do things alphabetically. If that's the only way you can do it, they're not ordinal, right? So if you can think of, anybody think of some data then that is not ordinal?
Religion.
Religion, right? Christian, Muslim, there's no one order that makes sense, right? Can you think of one that would be ordinal? Something that would have an order. They're kind of harder to find.
Time.
What do you mean by time? Oh, like summer, winter, autumn, spring kind of thing?
Mhm.
Yeah, that would work, wouldn't it? If you just use the word spring, autumn, winter. Yeah, wouldn't that be, you know, I don't know where you start, spring, summer, autumn, winter, right? That would be a natural order. That would work.